Story 1.
Am I the butthole for screaming at my dad about my toys? Throwaway account. I, 21 female, have a toy collection. I work while I study, and that gives me the freedom to buy things outside of my necessities, but I still live with them since it would be expensive for all of us if I moved out. My quote toys were 20 die-cast car models and 2 Formula 1 models. None of them are that rare to find, but I find pleasure in seeing them stack up on each other on display in my room. Last year, my girlfriend gifted me a RC F1 Ferrari car for my birthday because she knew I loved F1 and Ferrari itself. The RC car was pretty big, and it had a smaller counterpart in my room too. During a small renovation in our home, I had to bring my things out and into the living room. My dad saw the RC F1 car, and asked why I had it and said that I should give it away to one of the younger kids since it would be a nice gift. He sounded like he was joking, so I laughed and told him no, and that it was my girlfriend's gift to me. But then he pushed it, saying that it wasn't appropriate for a grown woman to have car toys. I told him it wasn't his business, but if he wanted to, we could buy them a gift. He left me alone after that. The second was when he saw me reorganizing my room. The smaller scale cars were on display on my desk, while the RC car was on top of my dresser. My room is pretty small, so I make do with the space. He looked at the smaller cars and asked when I got them. I told him I'd been collecting since 2023, and that it wasn't bought all at once since some of them were bought from Facebook Marketplace. He huffed that the toys should be given to the younger kids, and I told him that I will not do that since it was my collection. I told him that I'm more than happy to buy for them, but not the ones I have. We went back and forth until he got annoyed and left. This morning, I came back to my room to get some of my smaller cars taken from the desk I had displayed them on. There were 6 cars missing from my desk. The smaller F1 model was missing too. I rushed back to the living room to see him opening the display boxes while he was video calling a cousin with some of the cars. He was bragging that it was his birthday gift to him. I waited for the call to end before snatching all the cars and marching back to my room. He snapped at me for being spoiled and selfish and that I was acting like a child. I ignored him and double-checked if I got all the cars. After I did, I stayed in my room and tried to calm myself down. I heard him and my mother fighting over what I just did, with him telling her that she was raising an ungrateful B-word. That's when I ran back to the living room and screamed back at him. He has no right to yell and berate my mother for the attitude I inherited from him. He was stunned and he left shortly after. My mother told me that I should not have done that, but I only told her that I did it so he would stop shouting at everyone. So Reddit, am I the butthole for screaming at my dad for taking my toys?
Notable comments. Not the butthole. Put a lock on your bedroom door, and sit down and talk to your parents about the mutually beneficial part of this arrangement. Point out that it's never okay for someone to take someone else's property. You're not keeping anything illegal in their house, but you're starting to get the impression that maybe this arrangement isn't very mutually beneficial after all. Ask them flat out if they want you to move out. Not the butthole. Your dad is though. How does he live with you and not know when you started collecting cars? When I was a kid I was all into NASCAR and damn near every Christmas and birthday I got die-cast cars from my parents. I don't watch NASCAR anymore, but my dad still likes to talk to me about it. Your dad sounds awful. You might want to consider getting a lock put on your door that only you and maybe your mom can open, for emergencies. Best of luck, OP. Not the butthole. Your dad laughing at your hobbies and saying they're basically childish is very disrespectful. You told him no, you're not going to give them away because they're important to you. You shouldn't have to say no twice, and he shouldn't have bragged about giving them away to your cousin. Your reaction is justified. Story 2.
My 30 female friend Sarah, also 30 female, is a single mom with 2 kids. She's been going through a rough time after separating from her husband last year, and I've done my best to be there for her. My other close friend, Lena, and I have always accommodated Sarah's situation, visiting her at her house so she wouldn't have to go out, planning outings around her kids' needs, and being as flexible as possible. Recently, Lena and I decided to go on a vacation together, just the 2 of us. When Sarah found out, she got very upset and told us that she had expected us to include her and her kids, since we are her closest friends and she doesn't have many people to travel with. She also said that because she's in a difficult situation, she thought this was something we would do for her as her friends. Lena and I explained that while we love her and her kids, a vacation with them would be completely different from what we have in mind. We also offered to take a shorter trip with her and the kids, like a long weekend, but she dismissed that because she wanted a full week at the beach. She then said that she would have let me join if the roles were reversed, but to me, that's not a fair comparison. If I were tagging along on a vacation with her family, I'd be adapting to their plans, whereas if she came with us, we would have to plan the whole trip around her kids. Sarah has now said that she doesn't know if our friendship will survive this, which I think is an extreme reaction. I understand that she's disappointed, but I don't think it's fair to guilt-trip us into changing our plans. She's also acting like we're abandoning her when, in reality, we've been incredibly accommodating for years. I feel bad that she's struggling, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's my responsibility to ensure she has someone to travel with. So, am I the butthole for not wanting to go on vacation with her and her kids? Update: she has just sent me a 12-minute voice note ending our 10-year friendship because she thinks we should have celebrated New Year's Eve at her home with her kids and that we should take this trip with her to cheer her up, and that the friendship wasn't on equal terms. This is the message I'm thinking about sending. If it sounds a little weird, it's because it's translated into English from my first language. I'm sorry that you see it like that. I do understand that you're going through an incredibly tough time, and it was absolutely never our intention to leave you behind. But to me, friendship doesn't mean that everything always has to revolve around one person, even if they're going through a hard time. We tried to find compromises, both on New Year's Eve and with the vacation, but it feels like it has to be exactly the way you imagine it or not at all. And honestly, that doesn't feel like an equal friendship to me either. Of course I can understand that you feel excluded, but that was never my intention either. There are simply moments when, as someone without kids, I want to spend time without children. You always emphasize that your kids are a part of you, which is of course your decision, but it also means that sometimes you can't have both. If you never really ask yourself whether there are alternatives because you assume from the start that you always have to or want to have your kids with you, then that's your choice, but you can't expect others to always go along with that decision. I think it's really sad that you want to end our 10-year friendship over this, because you mean a lot to me. But if this is what you've decided for yourself, then I have no choice but to respect that. I still hope that at some point we can find our way back to each other, and I wish you and the kids all the best.
Notable comments. Not the butthole. I don't understand how this woman thinks friendship works. Was she expecting you to babysit? Are you not allowed to have other friends? This is confusing. OP responds.
She said she doesn't expect us to help with her kids, but realistically that is near impossible. We love the kids, and if they went up to us wanting our attention or help, or if we saw her struggling, we would never tell them to just F off. We had a similar situation at our New Year's Eve party where she insisted on bringing the kids, and at the end we did end up helping her with them, so we know it just wouldn't work.
Not the butthole. She has unrealistic expectations if she thinks she and her kids are going to be included in everything. And if the friendship doesn't survive, then that's her decision. So she is threatening to cut the only two people who do socialize with her out of her life because you won't pay for a holiday for her and the kids. Not very smart, is she? How will you ever manage without such a bright light of joy and understanding in your life? Hope she feels suitably justified with her self-destructive tantrum while sitting at home all alone. Not the butthole. Story 3.
Am I the butthole for making my roommate's boyfriend dinner? Hello all. So last night I female 26 got home early from work and my roommate's female 24 boyfriend male 25 was at our house waiting for her to get home. Not out of the ordinary, I get changed out of my work clothes and I begin making my dinner, ramen noodles. While I have the stove still hot, I ask her boyfriend male 26 if he would like some. I didn't see this as weird or anything and just figured it was the polite thing to do. He told me he was starving and would love some, so I make him one brick of ramen and then I go to my room and continued with my night, and that was that, I figured. Now this morning, my roommate texts me and asks if I could not make her boyfriend food when he's over in full capital letters HER. Like I'm trying to win over her man with a brick of beef-flavored ramen. Am I the butthole here? I felt like at the time it was the completely normal and polite thing to do, but now I'm kinda overthinking the whole thing.
Notable comments. Not the butthole. It doesn't even sound like you spent time socializing with him. You probably spent less than $1 on that ramen, and it isn't really any more effort to make 2 bricks of ramen instead of 1. Your roommate has some serious problems. Roommate is silly. Did he slurp the ramen out of your belly button or something? Not the butthole, haha. Your roommate needs to deal better with her insecurity. You were not the a-hole, and she is very insecure. It was ramen and you didn't even eat with him. You were being polite. I have not even read the other comments, but I am so certain most would agree with me that I bet you could just show her this thread to make her come to her senses and realize that she is the one who is being the a-hole. I know when I have guests over, I always offer to treat them to a snack or meal. That's how I was raised. It's not like you shared a single bowl or something like that. You were acting like a host. He's a guest, even if he's her guest. It sounds like she's insecure. You did not overstep boundaries. Please show her this thread, as she's being absurd and rude to you and, to an extension, her boyfriend. You shouldn't be made to feel you've done something wrong. Not the butthole.
Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you want more videos like this. See you next time.